I'll- All right, here we are. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the DORR Breakfast, DORR Educational Breakfast. My name is Ellen Ferreira. I'm the president of Democrats of the Red Rocks. Yay. And I welcome you. I welcome all first timers. I see Linda over here as a first timer. You guys have been here before, right? So welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. I want to, before we get started, acknowledge Donna, who's up here coughing, is the person who puts together the programs for Democrats of the Red Rocks. And it's not an easy but she does a great job of it. So we appreciate it. And I want to thank Jeff Bissinger and Jenny Hurst and for being, and then behind the scenes at her home in Cottonwood is Shelley Haken, who is always the best at leading Zoom calls and things like that. So thank you, Shelley, very much. Yes. Before we get started, I just wanted to make a somewhat sad announcement. We have lost from our community Pat O'Halloran. Pat was the wife of Congressman Tom O'Halloran, and many of you know her and have known her throughout the years. She is a loyal person. She is a good friend of ours. She was a wonderful partner for Congressman O'Halloran for so many years. And after finding illness, she finally succumbed to that illness. So the obituary has not come out in the paper yet, but you will be seeing that and hearing about that. So that's sad, and we wish the best for Congressman O'Halloran. Okay, so last time we came together, somebody said to me, "Well, it can't get any worse, can it?"
Never say that.
Never say that. Because it does indeed keep getting worse. And now we are at war, or an excursion, as some people would say. And just like the tourists that came into the Capitol building on January 6th, we're in an excursion, but it's a worldwide thing and it's growing and it's getting worse. And we have heard that it will end in 5 weeks. It will end in 1 week. It has already ended. And so
When I feel like it.
it will end when I feel it in my bones. Yeah. So we just have to buckle up and hang on. We, as a grassroots organization, have to keep our eye on the prize. Winning the midterms is critical, beyond critical. And whatever you guys can do in whatever capacity, DORR will welcome you. Indivisible groups will welcome you. There's so much that can be done. And don't wait for us to, hand feed you an idea. If you think of something you want to do, go ahead and do it. For example, there is a group somewhere else in Arizona that is putting a long arrow on cardboard, and they're holding it pointing to the gas price sign at the gas station, and with a big sign that says, "Trump did this." I mean, we're only limited by our creativity, right? I'll tell you things that are coming up. The biggest thing coming up right now is March 28th, No Kings. That's going to be huge. It's going to be nationwide. We have to be there. We have to show up. We have to be loud. There are 4 events happening in the Verde Valley. There are 2 in Cottonwood. There's 1 in the village of Oak Creek, and there's 1 here in Sedona. The Sedona one, we will meet and park at the high school at Red Rock Loop Road. We will walk down 89A to the Commons next to the library, and we will have a fabulous rally there. We have Dr. Coral Evans, and who is fabulous, and Kelly Klemenko, who is a local guy who writes an amazing Substack. And the mayor will be there, of course, lots of people. And then afterwards, we're going to have a Freedom Festival. Tommy Rocks. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tommy Rocks, Tommy Anderson. He's from Jerome, and he and 2 guys that he plays with have a whole lineup of fabulous songs for us. And it's going to be a fun day. We've got 3 food trucks. If you would like to volunteer to help, and I know we still need at least 1 crossing guard, and we need other people to help, please see Toby Friedman at the back of the room, and Toby will figure out how to put you to work. It's going to be a great event, a lot of fun, and we put in an order for sunshine and 78 degrees. Hopefully that will happen now that spring break is coinciding with midsummer. This should not be happening right now. The day after, no kids, on March the 29th, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes will be here, and we are doing a fundraiser for Adrian Fontes. We need to get him elected, as we need the top 3 officers. We need to get them elected. Adrian Fontes will run against an election denier, and having an election denier as Secretary of State is a disaster, as you can imagine. So Fontes has got to win. It's going to be at a beautiful private home in West Sedona, and we've got lots of surprises. Surprise for the Secretary of State, and great food, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, then the day after that, not that anyone needs to rest around here, the day after that, March 30th, we're having our open door at the DORR offices from 5 to 7, free pizza, free drinks, salad, dessert, and there's no agenda. You just come and meet like-minded people and schmooze and talk and have a good time together. And so that will be, it's always on the 30th of the month. So please come to that just to hang out, no obligations. So that would be great. The Dance for Democracy, we are doing another dance.
Yay.
Dance for Democracy will be May 22nd at the Elks Lodge. And we are working on setting that up, and it will be to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So just put that on your calendar, May 22nd. Okay, so many of you have taken this survey that we put out about these breakfasts.
Hold on one second, let's tell Steve, advance the slide for me, Steve, will you? There you go.
Yeah, I'm not expecting you to read this because this is, I hate when people, put a slide up there and you can't really read it. So I'll tell you what happened. We got 46 responses to the survey, which is pretty good. And the things that were the most popular by far was meet the candidates. And we have a candidate here today, by the way. Meet the candidates. What do we know? The second was, what do we need to know about the midterms? We want to be prepared. We got to be prepared. So that came in second. Third, how is AI being used in politics? Fascinating discussion. Things that came in last were surprises to me because they were personal things that I said, people are really going to want to know about this. And I was totally wrong.
Your finger on the pulse, Ellen.
The pulse of just about nobody. 5 people said they would like to learn more about cryptocurrency. So we're not going to be doing a program on cryptocurrency because lack of interest. Also surprising to me was just an open discussion. So in other words, we would come here at the same time, same place, and just have a discussion about politics and political matters and things like that. So that's not going to happen either. But we will try, Donna will try to find programs that are in keeping with what people have requested. And so we will be here the 3rd Friday of every month going forward. And no, we are not taking time off during the summer. Okay.
Do you want to tell them about the survey results if they want to read the entire survey?
Yeah, the entire survey will be put on the website. I thought this was the most interesting part of it. A lot of it was, when do you think we should have these breakfasts? And about half the people said we should have them early in the morning, and the other half said we should have them late in the evening. And what about this venue? And anyway, there was no real clear indication of what people would want. So there is another way that we can help that is just now coming to us. There are 2 groups, Save Our Schools Arizona and another educational organization, School Vouchers. They've been around for a while. It's getting worse and worse. We are paying $1 billion for private schools, for people who may have already had their kids in private schools, but now we're giving everyone $7,000 to put their kid in the private school that they have been going to anyway. There is no accountability for the teachers. There are no safety standards. There are no academic accountability. This is not a thing that is unique to Arizona. It is happening all around the country. It is a national plan to privatize our schools, and Arizona is the first state that we are aware of that is actually trying to put this on the ballot. It was actually on the ballot 2 years ago, and I'm not sure what happened or how it went sideways, but we are putting it on the ballot again, and there are petitions out here for you to sign. God forbid you should come to one of these meetings and not be asked to sign petitions. So there are petitions out here. Kathy Rutherford is spearheading this for after the March Indivisible. Toby will be a hub for Indivisible Sedona. The petitions will be available at the DORR office. You can come by and sign it, but if you are interested in being a petition circulator, particularly if you're a PC or a neighborhood coordinator and you're going to houses and being with people, take some petitions with you. We will have to train you on what is acceptable and what is it not acceptable. The state does not make it easy for us to carry these petitions or for citizens initiatives to survive and thrive. They make it as difficult as possible. And we're just going to have to train people to make sure that nobody signs their name with the big Y below the line and things like that. You cannot sign your own petition. There's a boatload of things. There is a website. And so DORR is getting the petitions on Monday, but we do have a few out here if you would like to sign it. What it does briefly is it would put these things on the ballot in November, not the primary, in November. It will institute safety measures to protect students and requires that basic standards that public schools have be instituted. In other words, teachers can be hired in private schools with no background checks. This is not right. So it will increase safety. It will increase basic standards to avoid fraud, waste, and abuse. You probably all read, people have been buying trips. They have been buying diamonds. The accountability system is very, very weak, and the system is very vulnerable to abuse. And so this would put some guardrails on. It will not affect the people that this vouchers program was intended for, which is kids that have disabilities and special needs. They will not be affected by this. That will still be fine. They can still do that. It will put a limit of $150,000 income for the families putting their kids in these schools. If you're earning more than $150,000 a year, you should not be on the public dole. So it will do that and limit that. And let me see, sorry. Then the last one is raising the bar for academic quality. So these are all good things that we support. And please sign the petitions as you leave today. You will hear more about it. And if you would like to be a petition circulator, please see Kathy Rutherford and she will.
And I just wanted to say one more thing. You don't have to canvass. You don't have to be somebody that's a PC or a neighborhood program person. If you get 5 signatures on your petition, that is fabulous. You can turn it in with 5 signatures. So, you get your spouse or a significant other, you get friends and family and those kind of people. They do have to be a registered voter in the state of Arizona, but you get trained on all of that. So I have a bunch of petitions with me if anybody would like to carry them. Also, I'd like you to be ambassadors, so you know about this now. Tell people to go to the DORR office and sign them. They need 257,000 valid signatures. So their goal by July 2nd, their goal is 500,000 signatures. So they have, because there's always some that aren't good, right? So please spread the word, because we are the first ones in Northern Arizona these petitions. But more are coming and it's being spread throughout the state. And also, if you feel like it would make sense for you, they're pretty well backed financially, but they're still looking for donations. Everything costs money, right? Price of petitions, all that kind of stuff. So I have donation envelopes too, if you're interested in doing that part. Jessica?
Do you have that little, you just mentioned 4 or 5 of the abuses that are being corrected? Is that printed so that we will have that?
We will give you
Thank you.
I have
a
a
toolkit, talking points, whatever you need, so
I
you
have 3 different things I can send to you. One is a slideshow and one is, and along with the video.
I just want something to carry with me that I can
Look
refer.
at what.
Right,
Fine, I will, thank you.
Okay, good. Toby, you had a question?
I was just gonna say, I think they're gonna be at the patio commons at the March on March 28th.
They will.
So if you just wanted to sign one, we'll have somebody at the table and you can sign it.
Right. Thank you. The other petition that we have here, John Rodriguez is running for a position on the fire district. He needs to get John needs to get 10 signatures by the 23rd. You have to be in Ruby District, which is west of Sedona, to sign his petition. But anybody who's willing, let's have him leave here with all 10 signatures. I think that's incredibly doable. So thanks, John, for running. We also have Sandy Zalecki, who is our candidate for the Arizona State House of Representatives. She's going to talk to you at the end of our program too. And her signatures are all taken care of. So, so that's good. So congratulations for that. All right, without further ado, I will introduce Steve Schear. Steve is a grassroots activist and has been for many, many years. The topic that he and Donna came up with today is something that I get lots of questions about. How do I know what's right, what's real, what's not real? Who do I give my money to? There's these incredible matches. You know, at the same time, there are scam matches. DORR is doing a match, you know, has been doing its match, and we know we're real, obviously. But so we'll hear about that. And Steve's background is much more broad than just ScamPACs. So we will see what he would like to share with us today. And Steve, I really appreciate your being here with us. This is terrific. He lives in Oakland, California. So this is the beauty of you know, doing things via Zoom. He works with something called the Grassroots Collaboration Project and the Ground Truth Program through Swing Left. So he's involved up to here, just like most of the rest of us. So thank you, Steve, for being here today. Yay.
Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited just to see what a vibrant, you know, active local group you have, because I really believe in local groups as being the core of how we're going to kick out the fascists and really take back power in the country. Local organizing is much more effective than having out-of-state folks come and fly in, although that's good too. But it's really local organizing is the best. Then I want to say a special thanks to Anna.
Sorry, Steve, we're just trying to, technology here, trying to make sure that we can see you. So we're working on it over here. Go right ahead. I'm sorry, we interrupted you.
That's okay. So, and I want to say a special thanks to Donna Martin, who really basically prepared my talk. She took some slides from another talk and spent like 5 hours organizing them, changing them, making them right for this presentation. So she's probably done 10 times as much work as I have preparing this. So I think she should get 10 times the credit. So now let me talk about just the overview. You can imagine you're on a beach and there's like millions of grains of sand, okay? And it's pretty easy to scoop up, you know, a bucket of sand. All you need is a little shovel and a bucket, and then off you go, and you can carry away your sand. So if you can imagine that Democratic donors are those million grains of sands, that is kind of the situation we have. We have millions of Democrats who want to give money to support, you know, Democratic politics, getting rid of Trump and MAGA. And then you have these PACs who see all these people eager to help, and they've got their buckets and shovels ready to scoop that money up into their buckets, and off they go. And the buckets and the shovels that they have are essentially these emails and texts. They have these donor lists that have been compiled from millions of us giving money. That information is collected and put on emails. And as the slide says, uh, more than at least 8 years, and probably more than that, they've been collecting this data. And so then once you're on these lists, it's very, very difficult to get off them. And then they're sold. So a good email list might cost 100,000 or $1 million, but groups, PACs buy these, and candidates also buy these lists and then besiege us with texts and emails saying that you should donate. Now, I completely support fundraising for Democrats, uh, but we have to be discriminating about how we give. So let's talk a little bit about the terminology. So there's both spam packs and scam packs, and there's a lot of overlap. It's not like there's one and the other. So almost all the scam packs are also spam packs. Spam is basically just when you're getting unwanted information in your on text or emails. Um, there's no law against it. There's no law against selling your information. In some states, there are privacy laws that say they can't sell it, without your information, but generally it doesn't apply to political emails. So at least so far, we haven't found the privacy laws to be a real tool to stop this. What's really so spam is very frequent, and it's not necessarily a negative politically in some ways, So the DCCC sends tons of spam texts, emails, very frequent, and I would call that spam, but they actually use a fair amount of the money for giving to candidates and actually trying to win campaigns. What's really a problem is ScamPACs, which is PACs which uh, take most of the money for themselves or consultants or ad agencies that they're working with to raise the money. So the Scambusters group that I got involved with in August or September was really triggered by some articles that Stanford professor Adam Bonica published on his Substack, where he analyzed the money that was going into PACs that were using or started by a group called Mothership Strategies. Mothership Strategies is run by three guys who used to work for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC. They learned how to raise money, how to use these lists, and then they started their private consulting firm, Mothership Strategies. And there's a whole constellation, I think it's 16 different PACs that use mothership strategies, probably more. But Bonica analyzed these mothership PACs and found that there was $282 million raised and only something like $11 million went to candidates. That seems very extreme. His data is a little off because he didn't include money spent on independent expenditures or other legitimate campaign expenditures, but the gist of it is real. The vast majority of money raised by the PACs that work with Mothership Strategies goes to the fundraising and to the consultants that are working on it. So the problem here is there's two big problems with these ScamPACs. One is hundreds of millions of dollars that are intended for advancing democratic politics are going into the pockets of these ad agencies, consultants, buying email lists. And so it's not helping us win. because it's just enriching a lot of people that are running these fundraising operations. So the diversion of hundreds of millions of dollars is a very serious problem. The second big problem with what's going on with these scam packs is that uh, it discourages so many people from donating at all. So my cousin Alan in Washington, he's now 94 years old. He's still very sharp, but because of all the texts and emails he gives, he only wants to give by check, and he's very reluctant to give it all because he's just so fed up with all the fundraising requests that he gets. And it's not just my cousin Alan. Lots of people are taking a very, very dim view about donating to Democrats generally. Um, so it's a huge problem in terms of our effectiveness, our ability to actually win the elections. Um, so as this slide talks about, the spam can come from all kinds of different places. As I said, the DCCC, PACs, all kinds of places. It's also not just a Democratic problem. The Republicans also have scam PACs. In fact, some of theirs are the worst, where it's just clearly, I'm going to put out this phony stuff and then I'm going to put the money in my pocket. We're not focused on the Republican scam PACs because we're not really concerned about money being diverted from Republican politics. So we're focused on money that's being taken out of the Democratic pool. And a lot of these PACs, for example, they'll have a website where they'll say, our endorsed candidates. And so give us money. Here's our endorsed candidates. And if it's a progressive looking PAC, they might have 40 of the best progressive candidates on the website. And so you look at the website and you think, oh, they're raising money for these candidates. But that's not actually true. They've endorsed them, but actually the money is going elsewhere. So one PAC that I analyzed and talked to one of the leaders about was Wind Blue USA. Um, and they were using one of the big ad agencies to raise money, and they raised like $1 million at some guys in Illinois, I think, or in the Midwest, who I don't know if they were legit or not, but they told me that they wanted to raise money to put up billboards with better messages than the Democratic billboards. Maybe they had good intentions, maybe they didn't. But of the $1 million they were able to raise using this ad agency, only $35,000 actually went to candidates. So 3.5% of the money that they raised went to candidates, and 96.5, about I think 70% maybe went to the company that was raising the money, and the rest was administrative and other operational expenses of running the PAC, lawyers, compliance people, things like that, but not political program. And that's a fairly extreme example, but it's not that extreme. There's a lot of these PACs where there's only 8%, 10%, 12% of the money is actually going to political program. Most of it's going to fundraising. And what you see with these PACs, if you analyze them, is that often the money the PAC leaders will siphon off money by not donating, but by purchasing strategic consulting services from a limited liability corporation that they are a part of. So the money, the FEC, you're required to report all money spent on politics for federal elections to the Federal Elections Commission. And so you can see the data on who gave the money. If they gave more than $200, it has to be disclosed. Often it's disclosed even less. And you can see how the money was spent. But a lot of the money, the self-dealing is hidden through giving money for consulting to these LLCs. And then what the LLCs are doing, the limited liability corporations are doing with the money and who is getting that money is not public information. So that's the way these scam packsters can hide the fact that they're actually profiting off of these PACs. And I'm sad to say that a lot of these people running these scam PACs are actually, uh, pretty high level consultants. They work with Democratic Party people, they're well known. A lot of them come from legitimate PACs originally, but they're just um, seduced by the ability to make money. And then they rationalize and they say, well, you know, it just costs money to raise money. That's just the reality. It's just necessary to do that. So most of them are probably liberal or progressive Democrats in their minds, but they're really damaging us with their actions. So uh, the scam messages do often come from PACs you've never heard of. Probably all of you or most of you have seen the kind of tactics they use. It's these 400% matches, or we need donations by this time. Um, Trump just did this horrible thing. He's threatening to take Greenland. We need to raise money to fight him. ICE is terrible. Sign this. One of the tactics I talked to one of the consultants about a PAC that he was running, and he didn't really know where I was coming from. And I said, how do you get people to donate? And he said that,
Schear.
well, what we find effective is we ask people to do something, like sign a petition, fill out a survey, do something, and call your congressman, and then we ask them for money. So they're making it look like they're a legitimate organization by asking people to do something that sounds legitimate and might be useful, but the real purpose is to get you to donate money to the PAC. Highly manipulative, highly sophisticated, highly effective. So who gets targeted? Anybody who's on an email, one of these email or text lists gets targeted. So it's almost all prior donors, or if you filled out an online survey or a petition, you're likely going to be on a list. The data is clear that the vast majority of the donations that are going to these scam packs, I don't know the vast majority, but the majority, a very disproportionate amount of the money is coming from seniors. They're probably not sophisticated seniors in terms of their giving and very well intentioned that they want to help move things along. Whether or not, I haven't yet learned whether or not these scam packs actually buy lists that are targeted to that demographic, or are more seniors falling for it because more seniors donate and they're more easily duped into donating. But it's clearly has a biggest impact in terms of seniors. And there's some sad stories that we're developing just about seniors who gave quite a bit of money, to these scam packs, totally duped, and they're just so sad and disappointed when they find out what has happened. Yeah, here's some of the things to look for if you're a scam pack. It's like uh, big dramatic messages that they always, the DCCC does this as well as the scam packs. It's like, oh, we're not mad, we're just disappointed. Or, hey, we're over the moon. We raised so much money and we just need 537 more donors from Oakland and we're going to hit our goal. As Ellen was saying, matches are often not real matches. When I talked to one of the leaders of this Wind Blue USA, I asked him about their matches and he said, oh, yes, we've talked to the lawyers and they are legitimate matches because we set aside money to match whatever we take. But that's BS because it's not a real match from some third party that says if you raise $20,000, I'll match it. The organization itself is pretending to match the donations. So many of these matches are not legitimate. They're just used as a hook to get people to donate because you think, oh, if I donate $10, that's the equivalent of donating $50 because of this match. They also, it is very typical to use Trump's latest outrage uh, or, or whatever is hitting the news and whatever people are legitimately upset about to raise money. So Trump just uh, invaded Minnesota. Um, please donate to us to help stop him. There was, when Alex Preddy was killed in Minnesota, there was a flurry of texting from some of the PACs about donate to us because, Alex Preddy got killed. It was like awful, exploitive of Preddy and Good's death in Minnesota. So it's a terrible problem. It has a terrible impact in terms of our ability to win. So, what's being done about it? So, uh, on the positive side, Act Blue is the main platform, and a lot of these scam packs are using Act Blue. It gives them legitimacy. Act Blue is increasing its scrutiny, its of PACs, and you can report to Act Blue a scam pack, and they'll look into it. They have not been as aggressive as we would like them to be. There is a financial conflict of interest that Act Blue has because more money flowing into their coffers, they get a percentage of that, and so it helps with their own budget. But they have kicked some off their platform, which is helpful. If you see a PAC that is not using Act Blue, your antenna should really go up that this is probably not a legitimate PAC. There are other platforms that they can use. So there's one called Anodot, I think, and there's several others. So just getting a pack kicked off of Act Blue is a good step, and we like to do that, but it's not sufficient to kill off any of these packs, really. If they want to continue, they can continue by using another platform. One of the ideas I have is to start going after these other platforms and suggesting, are you aware you may be participating in fraud here? And do you vet the organizations that are using your platform because you could be implicated in fraud to see if we can undermine some of the scam packs that way. But we haven't gotten there yet. So after Adam Bonica's uh, articles in August, a woman named Susan LaBandabar, who's the co-leader of the Swing Blue Alliance in Massachusetts, and certainly one of the top grassroots organizers in the country, said, hey, we've got to do something about that. And I'd been bothered by this problem since 2023, when I first started seeing how much money was being drained off, but I hadn't done anything about it. But I offered to help Susan get Scambusters started. And so since September, August, we've been working on it. And the first thing we've been doing is compiling data on, well, figuring out how to identify which are the bad packs that we should be trying to expose and get rid of. So there was just a methodology question of how do you deal with all this data on the FEC? What kind of standards would we apply to packs? And so that is well in progress, and we're identifying scam packs. And then soon we'll be launching a website called scambusters.us, where we'll be listing PACs that are questionable and analyzing them and providing that information. We're hoping to get media attention when we do that. And I'm also hoping that we can get some of the Democratic attorney generals like Chris Mays to form a team to go after the ScamPACs, because uh, exposure alone uh, usually does not stop them, just because they can continue making money. And so there's this powerful financial self-interest to keep going, and public shaming isn't enough. So my belief and hope is that we can get some of the Democratic attorney generals to go after these folks. A criminal prosecution of any of these guys, they're usually guys, but maybe not always, would really create a strong deterrent effect. Or if they go after them civilly for fraud, or and having to uh, give back the money that they've taken, uh, that would really be a powerful tool. So I haven't started that yet. I hope to talk to Chris Mays soon. I'm going to a fundraiser for her tonight, actually, and hoping to connect with her there. So that's, I think, a very promising opportunity. And then the Oath dot, there's a group called, or an organization called Oath. Their website is oath.vote, and they've been working on creating a coalition that would educate people about ScamPACs and how to avoid them. Uh, Whether or not that coalition will launch is unclear, because the lawyers, who tend to be very conservative, are nervous about identifying ScamPACs because they're afraid the organizations will get sued, might be part of it. And also, some of these consultants on behind some of these ScamPACs are connected and maybe talking behind the scenes to try to stop this from happening. So what you can do, there's uh, what you can do to protect yourself. There's all these tools that you can have to block text messages. Uh, so uh, Forwarding a a screenshot to 7726, you can block them. I don't generally answer unknown callers. Report spam messages on your phone. The companies do use that stuff, uh, reporting your emails. And then you can also report to Act Blue violations. And that is very helpful to do. There's a form. Let me see if I can move my screen. Whoop. Let me do. Well, hold on. Let me just.
You can click on the link, Steve, that where it says here, and it'll take you to the form.
Well,
For violations, yeah.
my little Zoom thing is covering up the form, but I think I actually have it here.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah. So here's the Act Blue form. You can see it's not really complicated, and
We're not seeing it.
oh, Team sharing is paused. Why is it paused? Resume.
He probably has to reshare.
It's shared.
Can you see it now?
No.
Share screen.
Yes,
And now we're gonna start moving into some technological stuff that you might have a challenge with.
So
Steve.
to close what you're sharing
Yeah.
so that you can open the other document for screen share.
And then he's gotta come
No,
back to
no,
this.
it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Skip it.
Yeah, don't.
You can report it.
Yeah,
So
it's probably better just to skip it. Can you
Yeah.
go back to presentation mode down? Remember the projector screen at the bottom? There you go. Thanks.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So the FEC does not require the FEC does require every donation to be reported to them along with the donor and the donor's address. The FEC does not require the collection of emails or phone numbers. So one thing you can do is just don't provide your email or phone number when you're donating. That will help
Yeah.
keep you from being added to a list and getting more uh, annoying texts and emails. If if it is required, then you can put in a dummy email, a fake email or a fake phone number that obviously functions in the same way. And then what I think is especially important, if there's one thing you take out of this presentation in terms of donating, is the possibility of giving through Oath, which can be found at oath.vote. Now, the reason Oath is such a great place to give is they do not share your data. So they will take it and they will convey it to a candidate, but they do not convey your email or phone number to the candidate. They just send the money, your address, name, and the other required information, your occupation, and so on. So that protects your privacy. The other thing Oath does, which is very useful, is it provides an impact score for the candidates and campaigns that are listed on its website. So the Amy McGrath campaign was famous, because she and her campaign did such a great job of fundraising. They raised $90 million on what was essentially always a hopeless race against Mitch McConnell. And so it was just basically $90 million down the drain. So what Oath does is they have an algorithm that analyzes, I think, thousands of races. They do local races, they do state legislative races, they do federal races, and they give races an impact score. So the impact score is based on, is the race truly competitive? If it's a clear, we're going to win or the other side's going to win, there's no point in donating, really, in most cases. There may be exceptions. Um, if you're building in a red district, maybe it does make sense if that campaign's actually building the kind of infrastructure that would allow us to make strides there and win in 2028 or 2030. But they analyze, is this a competitive district? They also analyze whether or not the candidate needs money because they they have a lot of experience with this, and as does their algorithm. And so they know what it takes to win a congressional race in a purple district in Iowa or whatever. So at some point, more money doesn't really help very much. It's not really having much of an impact. If you've covered TV, if you've covered social media, if you've got a good field operation. So they gauge whether or not already enough money is in there or candidates that are very promising that really need money, and they elevate those. And then there's, I think, a third, I'm not sure about the third one. It might be the impact in terms of other races for a nested race. So if you give to a state legislative race in Iowa Congressional District 1, which is also a competitive purple district, then you have an impact on two races at one time. And then, because the Iowa Senate seat is open, and that may also be doable, you're actually affecting three races at one time. So those kinds of nested races are very effective, and that might be the third piece of the oath algorithm. I'm not sure about that though. But Oath is run by a guy named Brian Derrick. He's extremely smart, tons of integrity. I trust him a lot. He's really trying to do good, and Oath is growing rapidly. In the last election cycle, they raised 40 million, and I think he projects in this current election cycle of 2025, 2026, they're going to be raising through them something like $140 million. So it's growing rapidly, and spreading the word about Oath is very helpful. Smart political giving, yeah, know who you're giving to. Don't just give based on a text or a message. this says give to candidates when possible. This is something I actually uh, disagree with to some extent. Giving to candidates is much better than giving to a PAC that you don't know about. But I actually think that the most effective giving is giving to county Democratic parties when they're run by competent leadership, or given to other local organizations that are doing good uh, organizing. Because the problem with giving to candidates is while you might win that election with your money, it's they're all about winning that election. So there's very little incentive for them to build neighborhood networks that will last beyond the election. So that's a big reason why we don't have precinct captains in every precinct in this country. Very few, a tiny percentage of precincts actually have precinct captains and neighborhood leaders. And that's because that we have been using for probably decades now this candidate model of fundraising where money goes to the candidate, he uses that to build the campaign, and then when the campaign is over, the apparatus is gone. You may or may not maintain the data about people that were talked to. Um, so county Democratic parties are often weak and many times do not have strong leadership. But when they do have good leadership, I think that's the very best place to put money. And then I'm not sure what the structure of DORR is, but you guys are so active. Putting money into DORR is probably a good place to put your money also.
That's right. We're here year in and year out.
So, and
We
then
are always here.
checking your impact score on the Oath website. You can go, for example, on Oath website and go to Ohio and see what races they're recommending that you donate to in Ohio, or you could go to Arizona and see what they're recommending for Arizona. So there's a lot of potential there. Don't give to overfunded races. I've already talked about that. And don't forget about down ballot races. That's really important because uh, most of us, including me, I'll take the blame for this too, have focused on the federal elections for the past 10 or 20 years. And the Republicans focused a lot on the state legislatures, and we can see the result of that in terms of gerrymandering control of the state legislatures by these horrible MAGA folks. And so, prioritizing, you're very close to taking the Arizona House and Senate. And I would really encourage people to focus on whatever you can do to take the Arizona legislature. It should be doable given the results of the state elections, I mean, you got Markella, you got Gallego, you got Katie Hobbs, you got Fonts, you got Mays, so statewide you're okay. Um, and so working on the state legislature would be really good. Uh, let's see. This is, my name is misspelled. Other than that, this is some of the sources that
Sure.
you can
Hey,
use.
Steve,
Yeah.
you skipped the slide about being a Scambuster.
Yeah.
Did you mean
What?
to? You skipped the slide about being a Scambuster. Go back one. There you go.
Oh,
This is
yes,
something
sorry,
else
that was
that
an
we can do,
accident.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, my group of Scambusters is pretty small and we could use more people there's something like 3,000 PACs. So there's just a ton of PACs that need to be analyzed. And we will, if you're interested in volunteering, send me an email. One thing you can do is research ScamPACs by going into the FEC data. I actually enjoy it. It's like a mystery. What is going on here? Is the money being used well or is it not? And and who's getting the money and figuring that out. Maybe it's just my weirdness, but I actually I do enjoy looking at these packs, and you might also. Another thing we want done is interviewing donors. If you worked in politics for any length of time, you probably realize that anecdotes are more powerful in terms of moving people. If I tell the story of a woman in Wisconsin who was misled into giving $17,000 and as a result had a hard time paying her rent, that's much more moving to people than if I say hundreds of millions of dollars are being skimmed off of political donations and going into the pockets of fraudsters. The facts are very different in terms of their importance, but in terms of the emotional impact, stories are more important. And MAGA uses that really well, you know. They know how to use anecdotes to move people and mislead people. So one of the things we're going to be doing is interviewing donors so we can do videos and stories about people that have been ripped off as a way of uh, dramatizing the problem, and also it will help with our media outreach because the media wants human interest stories and they want people that have been victimized. Uh, the third thing is most challenging, which is learning how to interview PAC leaders and get them to talk about what they're doing. Because we do want to give them a chance to present their side of the story, because sometimes there is stuff that's not apparent in the FEC data where it looks like they're taking the money, but actually it's quite, or at least partially legitimate. There's some good explanation. And it can be difficult to know whether a PAC is a scam PAC or not, because if you just look at operational expenses, you might think any PAC with 80% operational expenses and 20% contributing to donors is a scam PAC. But that's not necessarily true. And Swing Left is a good example. They don't contribute to candidates directly, I don't think. They might do a little, but of their $16 million budget, most of it's going to salaries, but it's going to salaries of great organizers who are doing great work. And so there's a PAC with big operational expenses. It's doing wonderful work. You can have another PAC where the operational expenses or salaries going to people that are doing nothing except, you know, plotting how to raise more money. So interviewing PAC leaders about what they're actually doing is important. It's also takes some training, and so I would train people to do that. These are the sources, and now we can open it up for questions.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you, Steve. I have a
Yes.
question for Ben.
So if I get a text for fundraising, do you recommend, I have two questions. Do you recommend that I look up the phone number that the text is coming from to know whether it's a legitimate PAC or not? And the other question is, with Facebook, I'm getting a lot of requests for money to give. How do I know whether those are legitimate or not?
I don't think you can, you know, the way the texting works is companies get hired to send out these texts. And so looking up the phone number isn't going to tell you very much. And I think it would be challenging to do. Uh, Generally, I just would not give to a PAC at all unless you knew that the PAC is actually doing good work, because you know somebody that knows what they're doing or you're very familiar with their work. So there are some PACs, a small percentage, are actually doing good work, like Swing Left or Rural. Uh, Rural Brigade, Rural, you know, there are a few PACs that are doing good work, but generally, PACs are not a good place to put your money. They're totally unaccountable. There's usually no board, there's often no public disclosure about who's running the PAC, you know, most often. And they don't have to account to anybody except to the FEC and show where their money came from. So give to county parties, give directly to candidates, give to PACs that you're confident are doing good work. But otherwise, just don't give to PACs. That would be my advice.
Kathy?
You had a slide, several back that said if, if it's a suspicious one, text back and the number was like 772 something, seven, whatever. What is that number and what happens when you text that number?
I think that's, yeah, this is not my area of expertise. That slide was taken from another presentation. So I can't answer that question knowledgeably. My assumption is that it goes to the company of your phone service company, and then they register it as a spam, and then maybe I don't know if they have some threshold figure that they use to say, we've gotten 100 people saying this is spam, we're going to cut them off, or if it's 10 or if it's 1. But I think it's does help to identify to the companies that these are spam.
I'm just gonna add that any text, political or otherwise, that you don't want, type the word stop and hit reply, and it stops.
Well, and you can also, if you can also select, call it spam and report it, and then and delete. So it's report as spam and delete. So that's what I have. So I'll report it as spam, and then it automatically gets deleted. So I'm doing 2 things at once, telling them to stop, and it gets reported as spam on my phone, and I have an Apple. And so while we're talking about this too, so there is a handout that we're gonna attach to this that tells you exactly how to. It's a step-by-step instruction that we pulled from the other slides that will tell you if you've got an iCloud account or an email, whether it's Gmail or Outlook or whatever, iCloud, it'll tell you specifically how to block, to do what you need to do via email, and the same for text. And so we'll put that together and attach it, step-by-step instructions.
You're safest going with organizations that you know or have heard about. So for example, DORR, Indivisible, you've heard about Indivisible. No, I've never heard a bad word about Indivisible. Same with Swing Left. There's an organization called Field Team 6. I know the guy who founded that. They have for years been giving us the names and addresses of non-registered voters. And people like Dave and Monica have been writing, a lot of you have been writing postcards to these people urging them to vote. Field Team 6 is another great example of, we know firsthand what they're doing. And that's where I put my money, the organizations that I've dealt with, and I know they're legit.
Yeah, so there was a question about giving to the DCCC, Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. I would not recommend giving to them because where they put their money is often influenced by who they know. They're not that efficient in terms of raising money. It's much better to go through oath rather than one of the large Democratic fundraisers. House Majority PAC, Senate Majority PAC, DCCC, Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, I would say, don't give to. They're not that efficient, and they're influenced in ways that are not free of personal influences, which don't help us very much. And since Ellen said she's never heard a bad word about Indivisible, I'd like to throw in a bad word about Indivisible.
Uh-oh.
So for the first time. So my problem,
Know your audience.
my problem with National Indivisible is that it has been focused on protests and doing these big march, no kings and whatever, which is, it has a function, it brings us together. It makes us feel good. There's all of us there, but it's really talking to each other. And I really feel like all this, and they've been talking about non-collaboration. They did a whole training last year about non-collaboration, which I thought was totally wasted. I mean, for 99% of the people.
Leading the resistance. We're training our senators as to what to do. That's what Indivisible is doing. And they're the only leaders. They're the only resistance in this country. If we didn't have these marches, things would be worse in this country. So,
Well,
yeah.
let me finish. Let me finish.
So you can research
You know,
that.
I think Indivisible does things that are us talking to each other, and I think that's a mistake. I think what's really important is for us to talk to people that don't think like we do. And that's why I think Swing Left and the DNC are actually more advanced politically at this moment in time than Indivisible, because Swing Left's Ground Truth program is focused on talking to everybody. So talking to Democrats, talking to enthusiastic Democrats and getting them to volunteer, talking to Democrats that don't always vote and making sure they vote, talking to independents about what's going on in this country, talking to people that aren't registered and checked out politically, talking to Republicans. And I canvassed in Fresno the last 2 weekends with Ground Truth. I talked to a bunch of Republicans who are very unhappy with MAGA and Trump because, you know, prices haven't gone down. They don't like the war. And there's all this opportunity to talk to Republicans, which Swing Left is advancing. The DNC now has organizing programs where they're calling Democrats who voted in 2020, did not vote in 2024, and reaching out to them. They're also doing a big voter registration program. To me, the best way to take power from Trump and MAGA is to win the elections this year and then win again in 2028 and take back the federal government. And that should be our focus, is winning these elections while we still have elections in this country. So,
All need it. I think
Now-
swing left is just as viable and just as important as Indivisible. The work that Indivisible is doing is amazing. It's just a different approach. So, yeah.
The great thing about the Indivisible protests, in my mind, like what's coming up on March 28th, is that they can be used to recruit people. We have hundreds of thousands or millions of people coming together, and we could use that to recruit people to then do actual organizing and talking to people that don't think like we do. So I just produced a flyer yesterday that people can hand out at the No Kings rally. I'd be happy to send that to you. And that offers people the opportunity to sign up for the Swing Left program and for the DNC programs.
Can I
So,
just point one thing out, please? That, just that every area is different. I think we need multifaceted approaches. I agree with you on that, multifaceted. In this area, following the Indivisible set dates for the large protest has been integral to people finding each other. We are in a rural area. We are a blue bubble in a red area. Some of our neighboring communities have been scared, don't know how to find each other. When you have a large scale event, it provides visibility that you are not alone. You know where to find your people, you coalesce and you grow. So I think, again, multifaceted approaches are important. And I urge you not to undercut the importance of the indivisible facet, especially in an area like ours.
Can I ask a question about a slide content?
You
Yes.
can, and we also need to go to questions in the chat. So go ahead and ask your question,
Dave,
please.
Dave has a question, and then
Well,
Joe, I saw.
The chat people.
Individual candidate solicitations from other states, many of which I've never lived in. Are you saying one should automatically question? I mean, you automatically question everything, but are you saying those could be suspect as?
well, I got one this morning from Summer Lee, who's a congresswoman who had some moment at a congressional hearing, and so she's using that to raise money. Now, it's not, I would not give her money because I don't know if it's a competitive race. I don't know anything about it. So
Okay.
again, you want to use oath or do your own research and use your money strategically. You know, many people, there's a group called Battleground Alliance, which has identified the purple districts. Swing Left has identified 33 House districts that are purple. It's pretty easy to figure out which are the 6 or 7 Senate seats where we have a shot at flipping Republicans. So it's not challenging. You can look at the Cook report in terms of what's competitive. So you can either do your own research or use Oath, but you know, I get random texts all the time from people running from Congress, running in the primaries. I would never give to them unless I had a knowledge base that said this contribution is going to make sense.
Yeah, these are emails I'm talking about, not texts.
Yeah.
Well, same principle applies.
Okay, thank you.
We have one question online. I saw Shelley, that Joe Conser had a question.
Yeah, she actually had a couple of questions. What happens to the money left over after an election? Is it left over in the candidates' accounts?
Yes, usually. Yeah, if they don't spend it all, usually they spend most of it. Sometimes they have money left over, and that just stays in their candidate accounts, and they can save it for and I'm not an expert on election law. I am a lawyer, but not an election lawyer. So I'm not an expert on this, but they can donate it to other candidates. And there are one of the ScamPACs that I ran into is run by a California congressman named Raul Ruiz. So he raised like $1 million with a PAC, but it costs $750,000 in fundraising fees and stuff like that to raise $250,000. So very inefficient. But then he gave that $250,000 to other congressional candidates. So that's a way that Raul Ruiz increases his influence because he's seen as someone that can raise money for other people. But it's highly inefficient. We're wasting $750,000 to increase Raul Ruiz's influence factor. So that's, you know, that's another problem we have to deal with.
And then just one thing, it's not a question, but John Lutz very strongly suggests donating locally, and an exception to the rule of giving to PACs is give to DORR, and some of the other local groups, DWPA and the local county party and stuff like that. So that is really, really important. But a question I have for somebody who might hear one of your talks is, because DORR is a PAC, how do people know that DORR is one of the good PACs? You know, I mean, obviously we get our message out, but.
Well, that's a messaging question for you guys. But one thing I would encourage you to do is, just as we're emphasizing the inefficiency of ScamPACs, emphasize the efficiency of what you're doing. I mean, you can say, here's the money we raised and here's where it went, you know, and nobody's getting rich off of this one.
Yeah, and that is something we do. We just updated our website, and that's very, very prominent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Steve. Okay, we have one quick question, because we have our candidate here, Sandy Zalecki, who drove all the way up from Prescott. So she wants to talk to us for a little bit. Quick question, Ryan?
Real quick, if we say that something is spam, like from a candidate, because we want to get it, you know, it's like, why do they have our phone number? Is that hurting that candidate in any way? Or should we just delete and not call it spam?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one to end on, showing my lack of knowledge.
No, Steve, you did a great job. Thank you so much, Steve.
My pleasure, guys. Keep up the great work. I'm really, it's very energizing to me to see a great local group like you. It just makes me so happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, good. We appreciate the time. We really do. Your expertise. Keep up the good work. All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, Sandy, come on up.
She has.
He didn't know he was in there. I know.
No, that's my fault. I apologize. I had no idea. I needed to tell him, but I'll tell all future
We
speakers
should
that.
have an agenda.
I don't think he had an agenda. He was telling what
No,
he
he said go to swing left instead of.
Melanie.
There you go.
I'm gonna pass out a couple things here before I get started. This,
Just pass these all.
so it's interesting that meet the candidates was the first thing that people want to know. Because guess what? I'm doing a series of meet the candidates. I think the first one is going to be, that's gonna be impressive. First one is gonna be next Wednesday in Prescott. And I have sent out a bunch of cards, stuff like that. I've got about 60 people that have said they're gonna come, but who knows? You never know how many people are actually gonna come. And the next one is gonna be here in Sedona. On April the 25th. Going to be at the Church of the Red Rocks. You don't have to. Gonna be at the Church of the Red Rocks, and you get to meet me, you get to talk to me, you get to talk to Christine, who's running for Senate, and we also have Teresa Ruiz, who's gonna be running for state superintendent of schools, who's going to be here. So since you are all involved in the voucher scam thing, she'll be able to talk about that. I am running clean elections, so very little of what that guy said actually impacts me. So I just have a little bit of money that I got from the state. If I get elected, I should say when I get elected, I think all state candidates should run clean, because that would get rid of a lot of that junk that's going on. I can't take money from PAC. If you want to give me $500 for food for an event, I can take that, but I cannot take your money. So, and I have to spend all the money or it goes back to the state. That does not stay with me. And if I build a coalition, I promise you, if I get elected, I'm not going to stop that coalition. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on next month in Sedona. Probably 2 or 3 weeks, couple of weeks, I'm sending out 2,000 postcards to different Democrats. This is a meet I'm getting around to Democrats right now. So it's going out to Democrats, about 2,000 postcards. I am going to be here on the 22nd of April until the 25th of April. My main goal is to canvass in Sedona so I can get to know people in Sedona. So if anybody wants to canvass with me, I'd be more than happy, because the more people that I get to, the more people that know me, the better chance that we have of getting elected. I know it's an uphill battle, but it can happen, because there are places now that are 30 points under that went 30 points for Trump, and they're winning. Democrats are winning. But we got to get out. We got to get known. And it's going to take more than just me to do it. Christine is going to be out. But if you would like to canvass with me, I'd like to know who you are. At these events, I'm going to have the petitions to sign for the school vouchers. I'm going to have flyers get out the vote. I'm going to have other different things going on. We're at one in Mesa, in Prescott, I'm sorry. We're going to have entertainment, we're going to have food, we're going to have a lot of fun and get to know us. That's what we have to do. After the primary, things are going to change. Because I wonder how many Republicans would actually vote for a Republican if they knew what the Republican legislators were doing. We don't know that. Don't say that, because
Some of them are changing their minds. I have some that are changing their mind. So we're gonna call them into account. I want to know why they're voting, what they're doing, and let the people know what that is. So these things that are coming out, gonna double.
Okay.
I'm sending out 2,000 cards. I'm gonna send out 4,000 cards. Send it out twice a month. We have all kinds of things going on because I want to hold them accountable for what they're doing. And if that still won't flip our state, so we have a Democratic legislature, I don't know what will. So, any questions?
But tell them about how running clean works. So what can you accept?
All right, so I was here before, and I think Christine probably was, collecting $5 from people. We had to get 240 people to give us $5. You turn it into the state, they verify the signatures, then you get a certain amount of money. It's not that much, like $60,000, okay, for us to run, which is enough for what I plan to do. I can't take donations from people. I can't take donation from PACs, but from an individual, I can take up to $220 until the primary. So all of the $220 or how much ever you give me has to be spent before the primary. If it isn't spent, it goes back to the state.
And what happens after the primary?
Then you turn in you get a certain amount of money before the primary. After the primary, you get more money. And I will get like twice as much money after the primary as I have now.
From the state.
From the state. As far as PACs are concerned and individuals, if it's an event, like for these events, you can spend almost any amount of money you want. You just can't give it to me. You want to spend $500 for food at Costco? You can go to Costco, even a PAC like DORR, or the Dems party can go to Costco, spend $500, bring the food. You just can't give it to me. They can do advertising, they can do calling, they can do canvassing, anything they want for a certified candidate, and I am certified, and so is Christine. You can do almost anything you want. You just cannot give me a donation. Okay. So there's a lot that individuals and PACs can do. You just can't give me any money. So I would, if I got elected, I would want to put in legislation that all the state candidates run clean. And Arizona is like really one of the only 2 states that have clean elections. So I think it's a good thing. Maine and Arizona are the only 2 states that I know that have clean elections. Wow.
Cool.
Anyway, any other questions? No.
Okay, thanks for coming. Break down the district for LB1 people's plan.
The voter breakdown, you mean how many people are Democrats and how many people are?
What disadvantage are we trying to overcome?
Oh, huge. There's like
30%, right?
30% are Democrat. I think it was like the last election was like 30, there was a 30-point difference, which is huge. But right now is if a Democrat is ever going to get elected, it's going to be now. Because Trump is doing all the work for us.
The elections, like when French was first running, it was pretty close.
It was. Well, then we got redistricted in 2020. And instead of being with Flagstaff, now we're with Prescott. So
I know our votes don't count.
our votes do count, but we need more of us, which is why voter registration throughout Congressional District 2 is so important. These postcards that you guys write, hoping, people will register. We need more Democrats to register, and we need more Republicans to start questioning what the hell they're voting for. Mark Fincham, who is our state senator, is introducing more anti-voter bills than anybody else in the state senate. I mean, he's got one after another, including eliminating the vote by mail. This, our state senator is horrible. He was there at January 6th at the Capitol.
Uh-huh.
And we need to highlight that and, you know, let people know what we're dealing with. Toby, you want to give out some of your cards, Kathy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you are interested in donating to a candidate who's running clean, the 3 corporation commission candidates are also running clean. You can go on to Equal and donate that $220 because they call it seed money. That's why they can use it prior to the primary, and it really helps them. So it's a very secure site. It's called Equal, and I just I got a couple different ways to get there. So that's one way to donate that $220.
You can't donate through East. You can only donate $5 through East.
No, you can. I did it.
Did you?
Yeah, there's two different buttons. There's one for, oh yeah, you have to go, you're correct. You have to go to the candidate's website.
My website, I can give you a card for my website. I'm Sandy Z for AZ. You can either send a check to me or you can donate through PayPal. Yeah, PayPal. But you can't donate, you can only donate $5. And it all has to be spent before the primary. Anything that you give me has to be spent before the primary. So I can pass that part.
Hey, thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Sandy.
One thing I need to say is Derek Espadas has suspended his campaign, so he will not be interested, not be running, which is unfortunate, but
Corporation Commission.
he's running for Corporation Commission. Yes, he suspended his campaign.
Derek Espadas. You remember we sponsored an event with the Corporation Commission candidates. There were 3 of them. 2 were running together, Jonathan Hill and Clara Pratt. And then there was a 3rd candidate, Derek Espadas. But according to Sandy, Derek has dropped out, which I believe because we invited him to be here today. I didn't hear back from him.
Yeah, that's why. I think a lot of it, he's disabled.
Yeah.
And it seems some of it caught up with him.
Okay.
Unfortunately, and he's a nice, good guy and no
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for driving down, Sandy. We'll get back to you at about next month's program, and thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Good to see everybody.
Yeah,